Over the past 2 days, I have spent over 2 billion tokens on the newly released Claude Opus 4.8. You can see that I spent 480 million tokens on the fast mode, and then over here in Claude Code, I spent 973 million tokens, and then 655 million tokens. I also purchased a third Claude Max subscription so that I could fully test out the new UltraCode. So I've been using a ton of UltraCode over the last 2 days, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you everything that you need to know about the new Claude Opus 4.8 model and give you guys my thoughts and opinions on this model now that I've had a good chance to actually put it through my vibe coding workflow. I want to preface this video with this chart here. This is a chart of all of the Opus model family releases over the past 3 years and their release dates and their weeks since the prior release. Claude Opus 4.8 was released 6 weeks after the release of Claude Opus 4.7, which is the fastest turnaround time that we've ever seen for an Opus model. Ever since the release of Claude Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5, Anthropic has been losing a massive amount of market share to OpenAI's Codex. This is some data from vidIQ that shows the search volume for Claude Code here on the left and Codex on the right. You can see here from this data that Claude Code is falling. Last time I saw this, it was at 8.8 million in search volume, and now it's under 6. And for Codex, the last time I saw this, it was at 1.8 million, and now it's at 3. So you guys can see that OpenAI is gaining market share, and Opus 4.7 was a huge miss. People hated that model. People were still using Opus 4.6. So in my opinion, I think that Anthropic had to rush. They had to force a new update so that they could try and win back some of this market share. So with that in mind, let's now take a look at some of the benchmarks of Opus 4.8, which are losing a lot of credibility, but let's look at them anyway. The first benchmark that we'll look at is the official benchmarks that were released by Anthropic. You can see that they saw about a 5% jump on SweBench Pro, but as you guys know, this is a contaminated benchmark that these models actually train on. It's completely open source. It doesn't have a lot of credibility. The second benchmark is the Agentic Terminal Coding benchmark. They saw a very large jump on this benchmark as well, putting it a little bit closer to GPT 5.5, but 5.5 is still ahead here. The biggest thing that does stand out is the knowledge work, the intelligence here. You can see a very large intelligence jump from 4.7 to 4.8, and this is also reflected in artificial analysis intelligence index. As you guys can see, we saw a very large jump from 4.7 to 4.8, now making 4.8 the most intelligent model in the world. On the coding index, however, 5.5 extra high is still way ahead of Opus 4.8. You can see Opus 4.8 gets a 56.7, GPT 5.5 gets a 59. The Omniscience Hallucination Rate Index, Opus 4.8 is still massively outperforming GPT 5.5, and in my opinion, this is a massive differentiator between GPT models and Claude models, is this hallucination rate. Now, with Opus 4.8, we saw no statistical improvement between 4.7 and 4.8. It's essentially the same exact model. Opus 4.8 and Opus 4.7 have the same exact knowledge cutoff date of January 2026. This here is a benchmark of output tokens that are used to actually run the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, and I want you guys to notice another recurring pattern here. Here is Opus 4.5, here is Opus 4.6, here is Opus 4.7, and Opus 4.8 is the exact same as Opus 4.7, which is a little bit interesting. It has the same exact hallucination rate, and it has essentially the same amount of output tokens that are used to run artificial analysis, and it has the same knowledge cutoff date. On CursorBench, which is a benchmark that evaluates agents on ambiguous multi-file tasks from real cursor sessions, we saw that there was actually a regression from Opus 4.7 to Opus 4.8. There also seemed to be a regression in some areas on BridgeBench. As you guys can see here from the lava lamp test, this Claude Opus 4.7 lava lamp looks really good, well-designed, good physics, and then Opus 4.8 just totally flopped on this test here. Opus 4.8 also saw regressions in the security benchmark, the refactoring benchmark, and the BridgeBench debugging benchmark. In the official announcement from Anthropic, they referred to Opus 4.8 as a modest but tangible improvement. And that brings me to my whole point with reviewing all of these benchmarks, because as you guys know, I'm not somebody to hype up models. If a model is good and I feel that it actually deserves the BridgeMine stamp of approval and that there is a jump in capability, I will notice it. I've been vibe coding for over 3.5 years. I just spent 2 billion tokens testing this. But what I'm seeing from Opus 4.8 so far is this right here: a modest but tangible improvement, which to me means, hey, we've improved this in some areas. It's possible that in other areas it may perform worse, but in these areas that you guys didn't like about Opus 4.7, we've tried to unscrew those up, and we've tried to put out a model that's going to fix some of those issues and bring our customers back. But they now have made a huge announcement, which is that they expect to be able to bring Mythos class models to all of their customers in coming weeks. And the odds on Polymarket for Claude Mythos releasing by the end of June have shot up substantially. Just the other day, this was like 10%. Now this is 40%. That's actually pretty high. I've been vibe coding for over the past 3.5 years, and I know what it feels like to get a big jump in capability. And here's a quick clip of me vibe coding from over 2 years ago, and you can see that I've been here. I've been watching these models release. I've been around for all of the major model releases like GPT-4o, O1, Opus 4.5, all of these models that truly changed the frontier and changed what was possible. So I know what it feels like when there is a large improvement, or when you can feel an improvement across the board. And all I want to say is that I definitely see that Opus 4.8 is a modest improvement. This model has not impressed me. It has not shown me that there is a new jump in capability, but I do think that this is the best coding model in the world, and that's why I have 3 Claude Max subscriptions. So let me show you guys how I've been using this. So I am going to put this in UltraCode so that you guys get to see how this works. UltraCode is very token hungry, and that is why it was so easy for me to spend 1.6 billion tokens in Claude Code yesterday. But I'm going to submit a fairly complex prompt here. You guys can take a look at it, but this is a system prompt to be able to rebuild some functionality that I had in a previous commit. But while that's working, we'll come back to that in a minute. I do want to show you guys the design capabilities of Opus 4.8. Opus 4.8 was able to create a first-person shooter game in a single HTML file, and this is what it looks like. So one thing that I did notice about the test this time around is it is very gamified. Now, it is just, hey, there's a couple buildings, but if I go around here, we'll see our first enemy, and we can take out that enemy, and just the design on this is a little bit more detailed than we've seen from previous Opus models. If you look up in the top right, you have a map. In the left, once we defeat an enemy, it does basically show that you killed a hostile or something like that. So grunt eliminated. You can switch over to that RPG, and we'll launch the RPG. You guys can see the effects there. We'll switch back. I have to reload. I'll go back to 1 and I'll get that guy. So the effects from my perspective are better. The design is better. The animations are better, but they're not that much better. And this is just a basic single HTML test. And this isn't an actual vibe coding workflow. This isn't real software. And when I was using Opus 4.8 in real software, I found that it was able to build some functionality that Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5 failed to build. But I actually had a fairly big problem yesterday while I was using Opus 4.8. I spun up hundreds of agents inside of UltraCode mode. As you guys can see here, I literally had 105 agents that were working inside of BridgeSpace that were trying to identify ways that we can improve the performance for BridgeSpace across all operating systems. I went through multiple workflows of being able to review the diffs and ensure that there were no breaking changes. And once I tested this, I did ship this to production, I shipped a new version of BridgeSpace out. And that's when I started to find a pretty significant bug inside of BridgeSpace in production. You can see here that here is a bug report, text rendering broken in version 3.0.78. And you can see this bug report here. And then you can see that a couple other users started to report this bug. You can see this is what was happening. The text rendering of the terminals was not working. We essentially broke the text rendering on BridgeSpace. This person said same issue, and I also experienced this issue. So what I ended up having to do is to fix this issue, I had more agents review the bug report and try to find out what was going on, what was causing this rendering to break. And the Opus 4.8 agents that I was working with tried to fix the bug 8 times, and it was not able to fix it any of the 8 times. And what I ended up having to do is I literally had to then revert BridgeSpace back to a previously safe commit, and I then had to push that update to production. You can see that I'm on version 3.0.83 here, and this is actually technically version 3.0.72 because I continued to try and fix this bug that was introduced by Opus 4.8. I even tried using GPT 5.5 with this bug. I tried using Opus 4.8 UltraCode with the bug. I tried using Cursor Opus 4.8 Fast for the bug, but every time it failed to find the issue, and I ended up just having to roll back all of the changes. The reason that I'm sharing this with you guys is because this is what I'm actually waiting for. We have models now that if you look over here on the right, Opus 4.8 created this remotion video that you guys see right here in the browser. It was able to update the page of Bridge Voice and make it look better. It did a really good job on this video. If you look at the Bridge Swarm page, it also updated this page's content and created this remotion video, and it looks okay. Bridge Swarm 1 prompt in, a shipping engineering team out. It wrote all that content. It kind of built that page. So AI is at the point now where it's going to be able to do most things. If you want to build your AWS infrastructure, if you want to create a website that is well designed and doesn't look like AI slop, Opus 4.8 is able to do these things relatively well now, and it has been able to do those things relatively well since Opus 4.6. And what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting to get a model where when I run into bugs like this that are complicated, that actually need the help, like I need help. This is a very big issue. Our text rendering in our terminals is broken, and I can't find the bug with AI. What that means is that I've essentially hit a wall. And maybe if I stayed up for another 6 hours, it was literally like I stayed up so late working on this bug and I just couldn't get it. So maybe if I worked another 6 hours, I would have gotten it. But the thing is the fact that AI couldn't find the bug and that it introduced that bug in the first place is an issue that we're seeing with these current models that I'm waiting for the next generation of models to not have. This agent over here on the left has been running UltraCode while I've been making this video. You guys have been seeing that it's been working for 14 minutes here, and it currently has 15 agents running that are classifying. So how this UltraCode works is it runs workflows. So it has different phases, and the phases will be different each time, but you can see that the 15 agents just finished over here in the classify phase, and now it's moved on to the next phase, which is the verify phase. With one $200 max plan, I've used 9% of my usage while these two UltraCode agents have been working. There's been one UltraCode agent running here and then one UltraCode agent running down here. This UltraCode agent down here did just finish, and you can see that it did update the terminal headers design and the way that they function. So if you see this here, I can now basically hover over this, and the responsiveness of this is much better. It gives the terminal header a name, whereas if you look at the legacy version here and we just expand this, do you guys see how cramped this is at the top? It doesn't look great. The icons get a little bit blurry. So basic stuff, and this is going to be kind kind of my main point, okay? This is normal. We've been able to do this for close to 6 months. It's gotten better from Opus 4.5 to Opus 4.6, Opus 4.7, Opus 4.8, obviously, but we haven't seen a jump in capability. And I think that the text rendering error that was introduced is a sign of that, because I was trying to push this model to the limit. I was trying to improve performance for BridgeSpace, and instead of improving performance, it actually introduced a bug that caused issues in production for BridgeMind. If you look at this again, text rendering broken. This is a problem. AI introduced a bug that was previously not there, and then when I attempted to fix the bug, it was not able to fix the bug. So that's my issue, and I do think that we do have models coming that are going to fix the issue. Claude Mythos, I expect to launch in June. Potentially July, but there is a very high likelihood for June. And I think that this is now the model that we are waiting for when it comes to Anthropic. With that said, I am going to put the BridgeMind stamp of approval on Claude Opus 4.8. You guys will see me using this in my workflow, and I do think that it's better than Opus 4.7 in a lot of areas. I just am a little bit disappointed in Anthropic because it seems like they're releasing models for hype, and it seems like they're rushing things out. And it used to be that every model that we got did feel like a move in the right direction or a leap in the right direction, and that's just no longer the case. Anthropic and OpenAI are both launching models that are just small steps in the right direction instead of leaps, and I'm waiting for a leap. I want to get a model that makes it feel like new things are possible, and it's been a while since we had a model like that, but I do think that they're coming. So I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I just try to not hype everything up and just try and be honest and share my experience, because at the end of the day, it's not about how good the model can build a single HTML file or how well it can one-shot something for a test. What matters the most is how does it work in real production settings, and that's what I feel like I'm doing with BridgeMind. Is now that we've surpassed 200,000 in ARR, this is a great opportunity for us to test how good AI actually is and how well it works in production settings. So with that being said, if this video was helpful for you, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and join the BridgeMind Discord community, the home of the vibe coding movement. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the future.